I since the pandemic, I've made a lot of videos, and it's easy for everybody involved because we don't have to necessarily meet, but I can give you more detail than I would be able to in like the written format, and we wouldn't have to go back and forth. So think of this as an initial list of my greatest hits of ideas to try, and then we can go on from here, and we can negotiate what we need next and other strategies because this isn't everything. This is just kind of like my initial starting points. So what a great topic, and what a cool personality and show this must have been. And what happens is you get a lot of people that are also seeing the impact of this, and we want to find what they wrote. And they're looking at it from a variety of lenses. So the first thing that I started out with was I took the email. Everything's de-identified, but I edited out a lot of stuff. But I bolded what I thought were the most important things, because this is what people would use to talk about them in articles, and they would use similar spellings or things like that. The next step is I boiled it down to what I thought were keywords to start with. And I highly recommend when you're doing a search like this, do write things down. And then as you look up things like Hawaiian sovereignty, if you find a lot with that, then you can like write a note, found a lot. Or you can write a note like, oh, this has been, the sovereignty movement has different eras, and it's long standing. What are those different eras? And you could, scratch notes as you go. Think of it as kind of like an ambiguous, nebulous, annotated bibliography. Be that as it may, this is how I would start. And then here are a list of the things that I'm going to show you how I would approach this in this particular instance. So if we were looking at oral histories, we would go to an archive. If we were looking at scholarship about the sovereignty movement or movements, we would look in scholarship. But since this one is based on media, there might be a lot of stuff out on the open web as well. So the first place I want to start is open web and strategy. Because this is a beloved community leader, it could be that we have archives or oral histories. So all you have to do, he says as if it's so easy. If the University of Hawaii created an archive, which we will look at the University of Hawaii Manoa. Pardon if I'm not pronouncing things correctly. It's unintentional. So when you go to Google, if you just typed in the person's name, what you would get is there's like some pop stuff. You'd get a lot of like LinkedIn, Facebook, weird things. But you might get some things where they are, it's a framed idea of who that person is. When you add a context like an archive, what that means is there is a university, typically a library, that has collected these papers, or video, media, or maybe there's scripts, or maybe there's ephemera from this collection. And what they've done is they've collected them, added metadata, but also they've screened out the stuff that doesn't matter. So what this does, when you look in an archive for somebody's name, all you have to do is type in archive : and Google's going to search in the context of whatever word you put out there. So you could put special collections : archive : museum : and we can find some archives. Who sponsors these? I don't know, so you'd have to figure that out. Internet Archive has been in trouble recently, so this might be the book that you were talking about anyway. But Internet Archive got sued recently, and so that may be up and it may not be. What you would do with these is go through and look for more ideas, look for more names. Maybe there was different people that were involved with, oh, this is just the book. Oh, that's a bummer. What a cool photograph. Oh, I wanted the archive, not the book. Is this sending me to the same place? Oh, it's not. So what is this? All audio energy for democracy. They have these holdings somewhere. What is this? You just have to click around and look for ideas. Here's another one, self-determination. So as you come up with other keywords or synonyms, you can do an or and add those. There's YouTube videos. Oh, here we go. Here's an interview from University of Hawaii. So this is, oh, look at that. There's different archives from different places. So this is Fred Waugh, who's that? And we might find out if somebody is in here and they're mentioning this other person, or we could go back and do, I don't know if the colon's going to throw this off for Google, but we could do that same search. And there's University of Hawaii again. Is this going to be what you're looking for? Well, this is where you have to do some digging. Here, Internet Archive lost its fight to scan inland. They got busted for copyright, and I'm kind of on the fence about it. But I won't bother you with it. A lot of it's published, and you can get it in other places. Okay, another one to try is oral history. Oral history is kind of like where they interview somebody who's authoritative. Oral history, yeah, there we go. Oral history project. Look at that. Ooh, that actually looks pretty good. So they interviewed somebody. And it looks like the oral history was just hosted on the open web. So it might be an activist. It might be a university. We won't know. Oh yeah, it looks like it's University of Hawaii Archives. So these are going to be great. And they are primary sources. So you're going to have, you're going to have to dig through and synthesize the meaning, which I think at the level that you're working on in research is going to be ideal. Okay, let's go to the next step. So try those, and try those with different keywords, and see what you can dig up. I'm going to look at University of Hawaii, NOAA. So librarians everywhere are good people. There's a few of us that are better than others, but there's so much goodwill, good faith actors. If you go to their website, which is slow, and that's okay. Oh, I don't want to go to the university. I want to go to the library, please. Oh, I forgot to put library, sorry. You get the idea. It was the library website that was slow. What you can count on is every library is a depository or repository, I suppose depending on the nuance, of materials in that immediate area. They're collecting cultural history, they're collecting names, events, anything that mattered from the ancient history all the way up to today. So if you did a search for here in Hawaiian sovereignty, there would be way more than there would be in a university in New Jersey. So a lot of this might be those archives and things that we looked at before. But let's look up. Let me show you another trick. If you have two keywords or more, like a phrase, if you put them in quote marks, it will look for those stuck together. And I'm not imagining there's a lot of First Fridays, unless it's a euphemism for a whole bunch of different things. But it should be all just related to the television show. So what they have is they have videos and copies, and you can order transcripts. You can order video recordings. All you need to do is get a hold of a librarian there and negotiate with them and say, hey, I found this one, the Year in Review 1991. Can I get a certain section of that? Or is there an index of that? Or how do I work with these things? There's water rights in Alaska, so indigenous people from the Pacific area, not Hawaii. What you can do, though, is there's like newsletters, all sorts of stuff, and the most important things have probably been digitized and are available. Libraries have been digitizing like mad for 20 years. But this would be, you'd be in much better shape looking at their library catalog. If you find something that you want, you can go over to our library and use interlibrary loan, and you can request things like book chapters or digitized materials, et cetera, et cetera. How do you find a librarian? I would say we have to find somebody for you to contact. So you just reach out. But the librarians in Hawaii are pretty cool. I worked with them before. List of departments. There we go. Department contacts. I would wager. Oh, they don't have photographs. That's a bummer. Pictures of books. I'm looking for special collections. Preservation. Oh, here we go. Here's your email. hanpac@hawaii.utah.edu. And you can also email the staff, and you can also see what's going on. I would recommend, though, you send the same question, and even send this video if you want to. And you can make other people suffer with my long drawn-out missives on YouTube. But reach out to them. That's what they're there for. They want to help out with stuff like this, and we can work together too. Okay, next one. Libraries catalogs. If you want to search for all of these and see where things like this are held, or where informations are held about this person, let's look up First Friday. We can look at all the library catalogs in the United States and some in Europe. In the library databases, there's something called WorldCat First Search. This is the University of Hawaii catalog. It's the Marriott Library catalog. It's all the catalogs. So let's do that. First Friday, the unauthorized news. Let's just do a random search. Oh, an error was detected. This is an older database, and it chokes on colons. So let's just try that First Friday search again. First Friday and Hawaii. Poems. A lot of this doesn't quite look what we're looking for. Let's try. Let's take our person's name and put that. Hey, there we go. So there we have our, these are, let's see, there's books and there's some audio visual stuff. There's less articles, don't worry about that. We'll cover that in another database. Not everything has been indexed though. So I think our University of Hawaii librarian contact will be good for some of that. But look at the author's name shows up, and looks like we have a lot of stuff. That's really cool. Is there something that you want that you can't get a hold of in any library? So for example, this one. Email me with the citation info, and I will purchase it for the library. It's as easy as that, and I'm delighted to do so. Okay. Oh, and by the way, if you click on these, you'll see the title, and what you would do is you'd go to the Marriott Library, and you would just search for that in quotes, and you would find the book. And there's that book. And then you can just track it down. There's lots of people in the library to help you track down books, but there's also a document and library book delivery service too. If you go way down at the bottom, oh, where's the document delivery? Maybe that's in interlibrary loan. Oh, I know how we do it. You log into review request options, and then one of them was like, have this delivered to my office. We'll even mail it to your residence if you like. Okay, next one. Our library catalog, I would say do those same searches in there. But First Search, University of Hawaii are going to be, I think, better. And then if you find a resource, then you can look in our catalog to see if we have it. Or you can go to that interlibrary loan again. Okay, next one. Media databases. This is the end of the video. I will not torture you any further. If you go to databases, which database do you look in? I have a list. So if you go to Research Guides over here, If you type in communication, I'm the communication librarian, or I'm one of them, I should say. If you go to the communication guide, look for PhD and Masters, and I will put that URL right there so you can see it in the video. What we have is a systematic way of going through things, and we've already done this to some extent. So validating keywords and concepts. We've already done this with Library Catalog. Nexus Uni and US Newsstream, these are really cool because you can look at most of the newspapers in the United States. So let's look at US Newsstream. Nexus Uni is also pretty good, and there's a lot of overlap between them. But let's go to US Newsstream. Okay, imagine, don't want to manage my cookies at this time. Thank you, ProQuest. So think of this as most of the newspapers in the United States. So you can put in people's names, again in quotes. This is going through, that goes back to the mid-1990s, unfortunately. So you can see there's, looks like an obituary, but how do you go through 239 newspapers? Well, what you can do is you can go to publication title and say, I want to go and see what Hawaiian newspapers we're talking about. I want to see what national newspapers we're talking about, and you can go about it that way. And again, collect names, collect keywords as you go. Let's try that First Friday again. Let's see what we get with that. First Friday. I think we have to add the unauthorized news. How do you do that? Sorry, just add an and. So if you wanted to have both of those in there. That's interesting. There's very few in newspapers. What if we did Trask, whoops, that doesn't matter if it's in all caps or not. Trask and Saber, or E-I-G-N, totally misspelled that. What if we just did those two keywords? Then we might find things, and as you start doing different keywords, you'll start to see ideas repeated. And then that's validating for you where you're like, okay, I've covered this pretty well. But you can see that the show is a big deal. Sovereignty is also a big deal. And the Trask name as well. Isn't that cool? There's so much stuff that you can dig through. The more keywords you add, the more it narrows it down. And let's try university. Yeah. So now you can focus on university, or what if we did Trask and Center of Hawaiian Studies? Isn't that cool? Oh, that is so awesome. I love stories like that. So, mix and match. These newspapers, it's most of them in the United States, but including Hawaii. Having said that, there's a lot of local newspapers that don't show up, unfortunately. So the little small town newspapers sometimes don't make it. So think of this as like the big city newspapers. Okay. So you can go through these. I would say your best bet is going to be these two because they're newspapers and law related. My favorite databases, I won't go into these because I think we've gotten the keywords thing set. Communication Mass Media Complete. A lot of that talks about communication theory and less about media, but it's worthwhile checking. Sociological abstracts, worthwhile checking, especially for like Hawaiian sovereignty, even if the person's name isn't in there. This is going to talk about those social and cultural movements, political movements. Let's see. And then JSTOR, I think is a really great place to go to. And then, okay, I think that's a great place to start. Cruise around the guide, and there's a bunch of other ideas that you can go into. There's primary sources. We did some of this. Here's some of the tricks that I already did with searching on the open web. But let me know how it goes. You should find tons and tons of primary sources, like interviews or shows or things like that. And then your secondary sources in the scholarship will primarily be in these databases right here. Okay. Whew. Hope this helps, and I hope you have a lovely summer break if you can.